Today we're going to talk about short squeezes. What the hell is that? GameStop, the blockbuster of the video game world, went from damn near bankrupt to a $30 billion company. We got 8.6 million people in the Reddit group that started all of this. So what do? Can you make money here? Well, let's find out. It's your time, it's your dime, so let's make it count. Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about short squeezes and shorting stocks. Let's first start with what is shorting a stock. You are able to buy a stock, as we all know. You can buy XYZ for $100 a share. You're hoping it'll go up to $200 a share, and you sell it, you doubled your money. Well, you could also short XYZ, which means you're borrowing it from your brokerage firm. You sell it at 100. You hope that someday or soon, hopefully, it'll drop to maybe $50 a share. You then buy the stock at 50, pay back your brokerage firm. You paid some interest along the way, but you made your $50 a share, and that way you doubled your money. That's how you short a stock. Well, what's a short squeeze? Buying stocks is supply and demand. And let's look at a company that maybe you think isn't going to do well, and they're trading at $100 a share. So a lot of people think they're not going to do well, so they borrow the shares at 100, they sell them, and then they wait for it to drop. Well, if it doesn't drop, then what do? Let's say it goes up to 110, 120, 150. Well, now here's a company they thought was going to drop. They're losing money. So now all of a sudden, if I give up on this idea, I'm going to close out my trade. Now they have to buy. So those that are most pessimistic about the stock, those that actually put their money against the company, are now buyers. So that's going to keep the price going up. So all the shorts that were the most pessimistic are now forced to buy at the end, and that keeps the price going up. Historically, one of the most famous shorts was in October of 2008, the short squeeze with Volkswagen.
Volkswagen!
Porsche was trying to buy them, and in a matter of days, they went from about 200 euros to about 1,000 euros in a couple days, making Volkswagen the most valuable company in the world in October 2008. A month before, they were almost going bankrupt and out of business to one of the most valuable companies. So now, how do you find out who is shorted? There's been a lot of publicity lately on GameStop and American Airlines and AMC Theaters and BlackBerry and Bed Bath & Beyond and all these other companies. Legally, the brokerage firms that lend out those shares to sell have to report that information to the regulators. So they report it on the 1st and the 15th of every month. So here we are, we're right past the 1st of the month, we're the 3rd, and so they reported them as of the last day of January. So they know what the shorts are is the first day of February. They have to give them to us by the 9th. A lot of people that are trying to find the next short squeeze are buying stocks that they think are going to be on this short report that comes out on February 9th at the close of market. So should you buy heavily shorted stocks? Let's take a look at GameStop as an example. They traded about $3, $4, $5, $6 a share for the last 2 years. Well, let's look first at their business model. They rent video games. Well, most of our viewers, I doubt that most of them have spent more money on video games than I have with 3 teenage boys in the house. We've never given $1 to GameStop. So if you look back to the Blockbuster business model, yeah, I was one of their favorite customers. We rented videos all the time. But kids these days don't rent videos. They're not buying even videos. I wish they would, just so they would always have them. They're downloading them, which I wish they wouldn't because that kills my Wi-Fi. That's where the video game industry is. So if GameStop was turning into a Netflix, and people could live stream video games, which they can't yet, they're too big, the files are too big, that takes about a day to download the darn games, and so it kills my Wi-Fi. But full disclosure here, you can watch many videos that say, yeah, they're fixing the business model. They brought on a very talented person, the founder of Chewy.com, and he's got some great ideas, but I don't think the technology's there yet. That aside, we're talking about short stocks and not whether or not the company is a great long-term viable option. I just look at the numbers. They were trading at $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 a share for the last 2 years. In about September last year, they moved up to the 7, 8, 9 range. So they doubled, which without a whole lot of changes. And actually during the midst of the pandemic, and people aren't going to brick and mortar stores, or at least not in California. We're not going to the malls. We're not going to rent video games. Certainly not going to rent a video game that we're going to have to take back in 2 or 3 days, and it might take a day to download. So anyway, the stock price, $7.89 a share. Well, all of a sudden, fast forward to January 11th, so less than a month ago, they were $19.84, under $20 a share. Fast forward a couple weeks, they got to a high of $483. So what happened? Well, all these hedge funds were betting against the company for all the same reasons I just mentioned. The business model they don't think is going to work. Well, there's a group on Reddit, Wall Street Bets. I think they had a couple million subscribers at the time a couple weeks ago. Now they're up over 8.6 million subscribers, including me. They said, hey, this isn't about a solid company. It's about us versus them. It's about the retail small guy against the Wall Street hedge fund, kind of like the Wall Street movement from several years ago. To answer the question that I posed a few minutes ago was, should you be a buyer of GameStop? If you think that the new board is going to change their business model and they're going to be able to compete with my kids that stream video games and want that game as soon as they can, as soon as they pay for it, they start downloading it. That could be at 10 o'clock at night. They're not driving to GameStop or asking me to drive them to GameStop. But if you think that they have a way through, then yes, buy the company. But I don't think you should buy the company just because of the hype. It's too risky. They got up to a high of 483. They went from 145 to 362 in a day. So if you had bought at 2, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, or even at the 10 level, anything up to 20, got up to 360 that day. That's a heck of a return. But then they got cut in half, and then they got cut in half again. And now they're down to about $100 a share, but I don't think that value is supported. I think the Reddit group is probably going to come after me, but if you want to learn a little vocabulary, I had to look it up, but they're chasing tendies. Like, what the hell's a tendy? A tendy apparently is for the day trader that still lives in their parents' garage, and all they want is chicken tenders.
Ma, the meatloaf! Fuck!
So if you can give them a lifetime supply of chicken tenders, they're happy. So that turned into tendies. They're placing these trades for some tendies. And they're using their diamond hands, which, diamond being one of the strongest materials on the planet, versus paper hands, which would be somebody that would trade away their stock when they double, triple, or they're 10x up. The diamond hand guys are calling for a 5,000 price on Reddit to me, that's gambling. And we're going to have some future episodes about gambling. I do enjoy my gambling, but when we're investing, I look for the fundamentals. I want the numbers. So I've looked at it hard and know there may be another short squeeze coming, but I'm not going to be buying GameStop. The reason that you're here is you want to learn some information, you want to make some money. So is this a thing? Well, it could be. With 8.6 million people band together to buy stocks, that is a formidable force, and it's a supply and demand thing. So this is a chance, theoretically, for us as small investors to be able to pull together and help these companies. So I'm looking at the short list. We'll be doing an episode after the February 9th list is published. For you, I would look at companies that you think are going to survive anyway. So if you follow actually a new feature to our program, we're coming out with a model portfolio. We placed a few trades last week, and it's trades that we're buying for ourselves. We're doing a conservative portfolio and an aggressive portfolio. And the thought being that you need to determine what percentage you would want in an aggressive or conservative. So if it's a 50-50 split, that's your decision. If you're 75-25, either way, that's your decision. We're just going to build a hypothetical portfolio, a lot of the positions that I'm buying myself. And then you can see how we're doing over time and if this is worth your time watching this. It's your time, it's your dime. We want to make sure that it's worth it for you. With that being said, I'm looking at American Airlines. They have a lot of cash. I know they're doing a secondary offering, but they're heavily shorted. As of the January 15th report, about 25% of their stock is being shorted right now. So there is an opportunity that if a lot of buyers came into the market, and they would force the sellers to put the icing on the cake. So if the buyers were to drive that stock up to an uncomfortable level, I think it's at 16, 17 right now. Today was a decent day, maybe 17, 18. If we got to a point where the shorts were losing a lot of money and it wasn't a sure thing anymore, then they have to buy to cover their short bets. So now they're buying and pushing it up even further. So that's why I say the icing on the cake. We built the cake, and the people that were the most against the stock are the ones putting the icing on it for us. So American Airlines is one I like mainly because if we buy options over the next 2 years after the pandemic's done, people are going to want to travel. People might want to travel more than they did beforehand. And they're a big brand, big name. They've been able to cut a lot of costs. They're doing, as I mentioned, another offering. So they've got a lot of cash, $7-8 billion in cash against a $10-12 billion market cap. I think they'll be able to get through the rest of the pandemic. And if something crazy happens and the Reddit group wants to run over and start what they did with GameStop to American Airlines, then you win again. In short, I wouldn't short just to try and make a quick buck. But if you're going to, I would say pick a company you think is going to last or that's going to be there. Some of these other companies that they're shorting, BlackBerry, when smartphones came out, I thought BlackBerry would be dead. I know they have better security, and I don't want to offend anybody that's here that likes BlackBerry, but from the layman's point of view, which I clearly am, I wouldn't think that BlackBerry could survive all of the smartphone world, and yet that's why they have a bunch of short interest against them. So you're swimming uphill or you're rowing your boat upstream or whatever analogy you want to use. I would pick companies that you feel good about regardless of them being involved in a short squeeze. So that's what we have today for short squeezes. We hope some of that information was useful. And please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.